Back in the mudroom today, and it is all about electrical. All right, so a couple things that need to happen. This is the outlet for the washer and dryer. The washer and dryer used to be right in front of it, but now they're gonna shift over into the corner, which means this plug needs to shift over as well, because right in front of this is where the new sink is gonna go. Another thing is that this outlet is right at the level of where the new countertop is gonna be. So I need to take this outlet and move it upwards just a bit. That way it won't interfere with the countertop at all. These two plugs are great. They're in the right spot. They're not in any way. They're gonna be great. And then the last outlet, which is over here, that's fine. That's not gonna change. For the sub panel, there's not really much I can do about it. The only thing that I can do is paint it so that way it's, oh, hello. Good boy, Koji. The only thing that I can do with the sub panel is paint it so that way it blends into the space better and doesn't look so awkward. Now for the switches in this room, those two are gonna be moving because that's where the new window is gonna go. This one controls the lights in the room, and this controls the light that's out in front of the house. Over here, we have the 4-gang. Only one of these actually work. This one here controls the light that's outside. These other switches control things that used to exist out back, but now don't exist anymore. So these three are gonna change. This switch here doesn't control anything. I put this switch in when I remodeled the kitchen because I anticipate that being the switch that controls a bunch of the lights here in this room. What I'm actually gonna do with this is put a motion detector switch on here. So that way, when anyone walks into this room, either from this door or that door, it'll sense motion and turn on the lights in the room automatically. Before tearing out any of the electrical, I needed to figure out which breakers controlled which outlets, and if any of them controlled the lights. It's extremely crucial that any electrical you're working on is powered off. A simple voltage tester can be your best friend, or in this case, a plug-in floodlight. The plug for the washer dryer uses 2 circuits, so each appliance has its own failsafe. I decided a new location for the washer dryer plug, marked a rectangle on the wall, and started tearing out the drywall with clean edges. This wall used to be an exterior wall. As you can see on the left, it's just stucco. Therefore, this drywall is glued to the wall, making removal relatively easy but messy. I also removed the old outlet and box. Next, I removed the outlet just below the breaker box, cut a larger hole to both expose the wires and open up a new spot a bit higher to place the new box. Some of the stucco was already cracked and loosely hanging there, so that came out as well. In order to run longer wires for a new washer dryer plug, I had to pull wires behind the wall. I hooked and taped the wires together, then carefully pulled them through. This is a short distance for a wire pull, but it still took a bit of effort. These new wires needed to run further to the left, but the stucco is still kind of in the way. Normally for running a wire, you wouldn't need to cut out such a tall section of drywall, but I needed enough surface area to glue on a new piece of drywall. I used a masonry blade on a skill saw to cut into the stucco. I had to be extremely careful to not cut too deep because there's a PEX water line right behind the wall here. The PEX line is for the pot filler above the kitchen stove. That was installed when I renovated the kitchen. I punched holes in the studs and ran the wire the rest of the way. With the new wires run, I could close the wall back up. The right side had enough room for a wood piece to screw to, but the rest had to be secured with construction adhesive. For the smaller cutout, I had to add a shim to the wood stud that was recessed a bit. This whole wall area will eventually be covered with backsplash tile, so I'm less concerned with how perfect it fits. I added the electrical boxes and connected all the wires that needed connecting, and added the outlets. Then I tested them with my floodlight. It all worked as anticipated, so let's move on to the next section. This 4-gang box of switches is an old mess. It controlled lights and things in the backyard that no longer exist, and has been in need of a refresh for years. Today is the day. I spent some time figuring out the maze of wires in the box and then removed the ceiling light and fan in the room. For whatever reason, the fan hasn't had any power for the last few years now. I didn't have to run any new wires here, just modified the old wires to control 3 switches. One for the exterior backyard light, one for the exterior front yard light, and one to power the ceiling fan. This part occurred after installing all the drywall. After painting the ceiling with a fresh coat of white paint, it was now ready to install new lights in the spots where the old ceiling light and fan were. This is a flush mount light that is easy to install for renovations. It comes with a template that you use to cut a larger hole in the ceiling. In this case, since the ceiling is old and cement stucco, cutting the holes were a bit more intensive than if it was just drywall. I cut both holes and popped in the lights. You could easily wire them up as you pop them in, but since I have to do work in the attic anyway, I'll just do it then. These lights will be connected to a motion sensor switch, so anytime there's movement in the room, the lights will turn on. This room is kind of small, but I still wanted to put a ceiling fan in here, especially because the dogs will be using this room, and the dryer could make it toasty as well. It's just good to have air circulation. I carefully marked the center spot for the fan. I had to be particular with my fan choice because cabinets will go all the way to the ceiling. This isn't just a generic fan. It has retractable blades that spread out as the fan spins. It was the best way to still have a ceiling fan with the compact space. When I went to test it for the first time, I was startled because the motion switch turned on the lights for the first time. It works, so that's great. The fan has a remote control for all the settings. That'll be mounted next to the master power switch. For the exterior light in the front, I needed to connect the wires inside the wall from the top left to the bottom right. I ran the wire and added nail shields on every stud. Those prevent screws from accidentally damaging the wire during drywall installation. Anytime you have wires connecting, they have to be accessible, so at the meeting points, I added boxes into the drywall. Working in my attic is dirty, hot, and dark. It took some time to get everything connected and organized up there. I was so glad when this step was done. Renovating old electrical, as you saw, can be a big chore. I was quite content putting away all my electrical tools to make room for the next step in the reno. Okay, that's it for now. See ya. Koji, come here. Drop it.